The views and opinions expressed in this program are solely those of the individual speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Cosplay Alliance, our partners and affiliates. This episode of the Cosplay Alliance podcast may contain coarse language or sensitive subject matters. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 66 of the Cosplay Alliance Podcast. I'm Anthony, and today we have a panel of extreme cosplayers. They're also veterans in the various, military. So we're going to go around, have everyone introduce themselves. And first of all, before I start, I want to say thank you all for your service. I know it's not said a lot to you guys, so I want to say thank you from Cosplay Alliance for all your service. So we're going to go around from Brandon on the top left and then make our way down to Nicole.
All right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Brandon, a.k.a. Cheeky Photography. I'm retired after 22 years of active duty service in the United States Navy as a chief hospital corpsman. I did 22 years, but most of that was spent with the Marine Corps and the various types of units from Parris Island being my first duty station to logistics, air support. Even did some work with force reconnaissance and also infantry, several tours, infantry and artillery. And I'm a cosplayer and a photographer.
That's me. You're next.
I think she can hear you.
Oh, you can't hear? Uh-oh. Let me send a message in the chat. Okay, so we'll go to Smoke.
Hey everyone, Smoke. Served 89-92. I come from a family of Marines. Former did infantry, security forces, embassy duty. Did mine for. Also cosplayer, actor, producer, wrestler. Basically the whole shebang bang.
Beautiful. Then we have Tony.
What's up? I'm Tony, dancing in comic books. I was served in the Army for 5 years, and I was lucky to be stationed at home, but I was serving September 11th. So when that all happened, I happened to be there already, and I stood there my whole term and didn't decide to re-up after that. But I am a cosplayer, I'm an artist and a professional dancer, and I'm just very artistic. I'm just following my heart now.
Beautiful. Kenneth?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Wait. They're confused. So I'll call this one Kenneth, and I'll call you Kenny.
Oh my God, the kid Kenny.
Yeah.
Wait, which one's Kenny? I can't see. Which one is
Kenny.
which?
Your name says Kenny on it. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
I'll just base it off.
Okay. Got it. All right. What's up, everybody? This is Kenneth Jamil Cosplay. I am a United States Marine Corps reservist. I served for 8 years in the Marine Corps. I'm at 0311. I'm a grunt. I was in from 1996 to 2004. I've been cosplaying now for about the last 4 years. And I've met a lot of people on the panel already. So it's a wonderful community.
Beautiful. Kenny?
All right, what's up, everybody? Kenny K-Bar. Also United States Marine from 2000 to 2007. Did the initial push to Baghdad in 03 and liked it so much I went back in 04. And I went in as a rigger and I got spent some time with the combat engineers. And after I left the Marine Corps, became an NYPD police officer and kind of decided to follow my art career and became a tattoo artist and cosplayer and part-time vigilante / clown and acting too. So thanks guys for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Then we have Tanner.
All right. So I spent 21 years in the Canadian Armed Forces, the first 7 of which was in the infantry, close to 8. Royal Canadian Regiment. I did my first deployment to Afghanistan was in 2006. So that was an infantry deployment. A lot of pointy tip of the spear type stuff. Fun times. And then I came back, got that itch, did a specialty course called Close Protection, and then immediately got sent back again for 9 months. So I was there 2006, 7, 8, and 9. And then I jumped ship to military police because then I could do the close protection work full time. I ended up deploying to Afghanistan 2 more times after that.
You're cutting out. You're cutting out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you cut out for a little bit there.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I think I've spent over 2.5 years in Afghanistan between 4 deployments and little tabs. I was in Libya in 2012, just after Gaddafi was, and before I left, and then 3 weeks later, your guys' ambassador, unfortunately, was killed as well. And then, Iraq 2019, where I was part of the team looking after the NATO commander in Union 3 across from the embassy. So it's been a pretty interesting career.
Nice. Nicole?
Hi, hey everyone. So I served in the U.S. Army 10 years. I was also in Afghanistan in 2006 for 13 months. And then I went back again in 2010 for 9 months. So serving in the Army, cool. Was a transportation coordinator. So I was always working the flight line, and then I switched over and started doing IT. And now I work for the Navy as IT, but a civilian. I'm a cosplayer and also an actress.
Beautiful. Asmir, we're gonna go back to you. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear y'all.
There you go.
All right. Howdy, everybody. I'm Sophia Asmede. I am 5 years in the Army as a reservist, but on an active position. Today is actually my 5-year enlistment anniversary, ironically enough.
Nice.
I am a 35 Fox military intelligence analyst, and I will be commissioning as a 25 Alpha Signal Corps officer, or IT, in May. Right now,
Congratulations.
I teach freshman cadets at my university in their ROTC program, and I also work at my reservist unit in their S2 Intel shop, which is in aviation. So I'm right there with you, Nicole. Aviation for the win.
Someone just joined us. Perfect, Robert. Right on time. How's it going, Rob?
How you doing?
Not bad. So everyone's just introducing themselves in their military status. So you're up there.
We were telling our most embarrassing stories. Go on, Robert.
No, with a retired lieutenant commander, Supply Corps, Navy.
Beautiful. What's your cosplay name?
Heroes for Hire.
Perfect. All right. So there's a lot of stuff going on online. Like I've been seeing a lot of, especially in terms of mental health. So I'm going to tackle this subject first. Do you guys think that the government, are there enough resources for vets out there? If not, what can the government do to better, this situation?
So, access to care is the biggest problem when it comes to veterans. Like there are lots of resources, way more than it used to be. The unfortunate thing is it's still a stigma about mental health, because it's those unseen wounds. Everyone's, you can't see, it's not like a broken leg or broken arm. So it's more of a suck it up. I got over it. You get over it. When not somebody can be in the same firefight and two of those squad members get severe PTSD while the rest are okay, or just masking it and projecting on everybody else having bad behaviors. But back to what I was saying about access to care. I have to get outsourced for all my mental health care because the average wait time, I would prefer to be at the VA because they have some outstanding psychiatrists and outstanding therapists, but the wait time to be seen for those are 4 to 5 months, even if you want to get telehealth. So the fact is that, you know, the VA is very, very lacking when it comes to doctors and specialty care.
I've been, I'm just going to come right out to the chase. I've been diagnosed with PTSD and dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety, dealing with anger issues and all. And I've been in therapy for the last 7 years through the VA, and where I do the teller therapy through my therapist and everything on medication. And one of the things I tried to let other people know is not to be ashamed about when you're dealing with this and all. You know, I find that it's always been easier to talk to other fellow veterans because we all can relate regardless of what branch. And it's been lately, and it was something I was like you brought up earlier, Chief. It was something that basically I kept to myself because as a Marine and coming from a family of Marines, you know, you learn to suck it up and deal with it. But it got to a bottle point where it basically, I wasn't in a good place, and it explained a lot of reasons. And for my mom to come out and tell me you need to see someone because I had exploded because I was bottling up so much anger and everything that I dealt with in the Corps when I was serving, basically going through the VA and getting the proper treatment and service that I did, it helped me move along. I'm still a work in progress and all. So the one thing I will say is, the unfortunate thing is there's a lot of programs out there for veterans. The key thing is if the VA won't tell you, you have to go out and ask, and you have to go out and do your own research and all, talk to other fellow veterans. I had a fellow veteran who was a cosplayer, Prince of All Saiyans. He helped me navigate through a lot of this stuff, especially because I was at 100. I just got my 100% last year, and I had to go through a whole bunch of trial and tribulations with that. And the VA is notorious for doing the VA math and everything else, and not it basically they put you through a whole ringer when they shouldn't have to put you through a whole ringer. As veterans, we did our time for service and country. You know, it's time for us to be taken care of properly. So again, you know, I think that there should be more programs and more knowledge to all the different branches, all the veterans, all the disabled veterans that are coming out, programs and all. They have it out, but they're not giving you all the information. So if you don't ask, they don't tell you. So when you're asking them questions, they're like, oh yeah, they'll offer it to you, they'll give it to you if you ask them and if you know what to ask. So yeah, it's very, you know, very prominent.
I got a question for you or anyone else that might be able to answer this. Do they provide you guys with like a case manager? Our system is a little bit different in Canada.
Oh
No.
yeah. Oh yeah. I had a mental health crisis around Thanksgiving of 2022, and my commander and my chain of command were like immediately on top of it. They were immediately on top of getting my resources and my case manager for my evaluation, my behavioral health evaluation. So if you have like a good chain of command, they are on top of getting you treated.
Active duty care is always a lot better than retired.
Active duty care.
Yeah.
That's not out of the military.
Yeah, I've been retired since 2018. I've yet never heard of a case manager. The only time you hear of case manager is when you're homeless. Then they will assign you to a social worker. Usually veterans that are that far gone, mental health or in care, where they will assign you a social worker if you're homeless. But other than that, if you still have residence and stuff, they'll just ask you, are you have a place to live, and just keep going.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you have to hit rock bottom to have someone come from your guys' VA to say, hey, have you heard of this little fella?
You have to
And a lot of
advocate for
times,
yourself.
you know what? And a lot of times, even when you're there, they won't tell you. It's
Yeah.
basically when you're talking to other fellow veterans. I find that when you're talking to, I was fortunate because I have my brothers, my second oldest brother. I was fortunate enough to have a network of family members as well as friends that I could go to and talk to, especially because I work within government and I work with other fellow veterans. So asking questions and all, but it was a lot. It was basically it's like you're basically trying to navigate and knowing what the questions to ask, and because every veteran has a different experience as far as dealing with the medical field, as far as getting proper treatment and all. And like Chief said, when you're active, it's a lot different because they're more proactive versus when you're out and everything else. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll give you the scraps, but you got to figure it out yourself. You know.
But it also what she had said earlier, you have to have a good unit because I didn't. I had to hit rock bottom. I had no idea that I had PTSD. I didn't know what that was. I come from a family. Both my mother and father are Marine. Oh, do y'all hear that static?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure where it's coming
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, maybe somebody might have to mute.
Hold on, let me see.
Okay, perfect. But yes, my mother and father are both Marines, and I didn't. When I found out I had PTSD, that's when I knew my dad did. So I've been through 2 deployments, and I was the only survivor of a suicide bomber. Didn't click to me that there was something wrong. Went on deployment, came back angry, had to go to AA because I was an alcoholic, ended up becoming an alcoholic. I don't drink, I don't really drink now, but I had to go there. Then I was beating my spouse, and again divorced, then going to another deployment. Then I was just very violent, got locked up before in the military jail, then back to AA, then doing coke, and then I was just angry. I was picking fights with soldiers, picking fights with everybody. Then I drove my car into a store because I was just pissed off. And then when I got locked up again, they're like, "We need to sit down and talk to you." They finally talked to me. This is like already 9 years in the military, and they're like, "I think you have PTSD." And I was like, "What is that?" And then when we talked, and they're like, "What happened on your deployments?" And I told them like, "Hey, the suicide bomber, this happened." They're like, "Something, yeah, you have it." So then when I started speaking to a counselor and talking out all my anger, because I was just angry all the time, but I didn't know why I was mad. Then getting the medication, then I just got better. And then I started, thinking more positive. Then I was able to help my dad because with him, when he was in the Marine Corps and this helicopter had crashed and he had to be there to help clean up the bodies because I was his detail, he was having nightmares and he was being violent from that. So getting him help after I got myself help, now we're both in a clearer space. My dad cosplays, I cosplay. So this is an outlet for us to keep us from just overthinking and getting back to what we used to be. But active duty, my unit failed me. They let me just go downhill. If it wasn't for finally getting locked up and getting counseling there, that's when I got help.
So
Yay,
I got a
military
question.
police, right? Right?
Yeah,
I
well, my
have a
commander was a doctor, so she was like on top of it.
So I got a statement that I often say about the anger issues and the heightened alertness and all this. The stuff that made me function very, very, very well in conflict and war zones made me a horrible partner and functioning member of society back home. But you put me over in that environment, like all these things, the alertness, the aggressiveness, that stuff it works out well in a place like, say, Afghanistan or Iraq. So these types of behaviors over time, they just get more ingrained in you, and you're kind of unable to shut it off after a while, I found. So
was one thing that was hard about Corpsman is we supported everyone. And a lot of us, we could be out there for 12, 14 months with either support of Army, support of Marine Corps, and then have to go be combat driven, and especially having high functioning, on the spectrum autism or severe ADHD. And then now we have to go back to a hospital and be nice and not barking orders and be kind to everybody. And for me, my biggest breaking point was I was masking for years. Like I went my first combat tour, Afghanistan, 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines, was in 2000, from 2004 to 2005, almost a year deployment. But I came back, I was reckless. I was speeding all the time. I was clubbing 6 nights a week. promiscuous, but I wasn't at the same time having the nightmares. And I was fighting all the time, but I would make excuses for my behavior because I had a Batman complex. If I saw like some guy smacking a waitress on the butt, I would knock him out. No questions asked. If I saw a guy, I don't care if it was his own wife, if he was being abusive to her, that's just the way I was. I was bullied as a kid. So I had a Batman complex. And so, but I think it was about 2012, right after I made chief, and I was just masking for years. I had the anger, but I was just so implosive and just keep it inside because everybody knows me as the happy chief who can be positive, the morale compass of the command. And one of my corpsmen that we were at the hospital together, but as I said, corpsmen, even we didn't really have shore duty. Even in a hospital, we still would deploy to support the Marines. Even at clinics, we still would end up getting sent to units to augment those units. One of my favorite corpsmen, who he was nerdy and geeky like me, and whenever somebody, people would talk crap to him and bully him because he's like super into Dungeons and Dragons and Lord of the Rings, and we just talk about Walking Dead and everything under the sun. Loved him so much. And he asked me about going to Afghanistan. And I was like, because he wanted to do his part. He never deployed, never been with the Marines, but he was trained. He wanted to do his part. And I was like, you're a good guy. Your medicine is awesome. They would love you. You will do great. And he said to him, came back, new man, more mature, his clapbacks were even better because, spending time with the grunts, you can't just be a punk. You got to get to in order to survive. And then when I found he jumped off the Coronado Bridge, and I became very suicidal myself because I blamed myself. And I was masking for years all the deaths that I had to deal with. The babies that died on me, the mothers that died on me, the Marines that died on me, and I didn't feel good enough because I blamed myself for not being a good enough corpsman for every single life that lost. Now I felt guilty that I wasn't a good enough chief. I should have told him the truth because I was masking all the hurt and pain that I went through. But at the same time, I was honest with them, but because in hindsight, I did do the right thing because I volunteered my first time too. I was at a hospital the first time I volunteered to go to Afghanistan. But going back to what I'm saying, I finally started getting help on my active duty. And it was scary because when you're broken, you're disposable. When you're the top tier performer, everybody loves you. Everybody stands behind you when it comes to leadership. The moment you show, because I'm a corpsman, I see it all the time. You could have the best Marine possible, like the best sharpshooter, the best kick down door, anything possible under the sun. But the moment he's broken, he's a piece of shit, and they throw him to the wolves. And I was scared to come out like as this top performing chief that is literally breaking. But I did start getting the care that I did, and thank God my son came along right when I was at 20 years. And I said, I'm done. It's time for me to pack up the hat, and retiring was the best thing for me because I truly, for once in 22 years, felt true peace being at home with my son, just being a stay-at-home dad, cosplayer, and playing with my toys.
Nice.
Thanks for sharing all that. That's
that off my chest. I was a little long-winded with that.
Yeah, no. Thanks for sharing. Wow.
Do we think? Yeah, quick question. Do we think our fellow service members, our veterans, seek help more so than our civilian family and friends and coworkers? Which group of people do you think reaches out for mental support and help faster? Because I don't think I could have this kind of conversation with my coworkers at GM.
I think now, because we see what our fathers and uncles and grandfathers went through from World War II and Vietnam and how PTSD affected them. It's now, and it's also because we were at war for almost 20 years, and so many sailors and soldiers were getting broken. Like leadership was almost forced to stop. Part of the mission is mental health. So it starts. So as now as time has progressed, more and more people are giving those resources and told them, hey, take art. Because also too, your leader was great for being a doctor, Asmodee, but also too, as a leader, we're responsible for you. So a good CEO would be like, hey, your sailor's acting out. It's your responsibility. Your sailor, soldiers, or Marine Corps, it's your responsibility to make sure that they're okay. They make sure that they're not just, a fuck up. Look and see, is there other issues? Get them over to medical. Let's rule it out. If they need the help, they need help. Get them over to medical. And also too, because of access to care and medical care, I think, in my opinion, veterans definitely go seek mental health resources more than their civilian counterparts. Also true, we're a lot more destructive because our job was in part war, So I think, in regards to like suicide and awareness and things like that, it's more. All right, I'm rambling. I'm going to step back and let somebody else talk.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you first.
No. Go on. I was just gonna prompt Robert. He's being awfully quiet down there.
So with like the evolution of mental health as a like something that we need to treat, like for me, it got to like a very dark point in my life where I was like, maybe it's time to go get help, because I was like dealing with debt, recently sexually assaulted in the Army, which is also a big thing. Watched my battle buddy kill himself. It got to that point, but it's also like you have to look at the history of mental health in the service and how we've viewed it. Like World War I, it was shell shock, and then World War II through Nam, it was called battle fatigue, and then after GWAT, then it finally got inducted into the DSM-5 as PTSD. It's only been a recent thing that we have a diagnosable, like this is something that is treatable, and that is an actual mental health like illness that we can actually like.
I have one question for, especially for Tony. I know you served on 9/11. Were you on the ground floor? Was anybody else on the ground floor on the scene at 9/11?
Well,
and how was that like?
Well, when I was in New York, I was living in the Bronx, and I just happened to be in the area. So I just got off work. I lived upstate New York, and I came home, and I was probably maybe a few blocks away from the buildings, and all that I remember was boom. It was a sonic boom. That's all you heard, and everything shook the ground, and everyone scattered. Everybody was running. Everybody was trying to find out what happened, and except to look up and you see a building falling down. I did not even. It took me a while to understand what was going on, because it didn't really click that we just got hit with a plane. But there was when I got activated, it was that very day. So the next day I went to my unit because I was with the 342 FSB in Yonkers, and then they activated me and sent me right to ground zero. And when I tell you, it was the most horrible smell and just everything that you can think of. It was just there was no person can process what was happening, because it was that bad, right? And you can still see body parts everywhere. You can still see people, in their last moments, crushed in the building, because when the building fell, it literally collapsed like a pancake, right? And some people were actually caught in between the building, so you can actually see what they were trying to do, but they couldn't get out because the building already collapsed. And, I never sought help for it after my time there, because I just couldn't go back after that. Like, everybody wanted to go to war. My contract ended. It was 2001, 2004. My unit got activated and sent out, and they asked me if I wanted to go back, and I said no. I didn't go back, and it was just one of those things that I can't never forget. And that smell is always in the air. Like I can smell it. So when I go back to New York, when I go back home, it's hard for me to go downtown because I know what it used to look like, and now I know what it looks like, right? And it's just not the same. Um, People walk by and they don't recognize anything. A lot of the veterans that I know, a couple of the firefighters that I knew that went in the building that didn't make it, um, they, their families are, there's just no way to process it. Even to this day, it's been over 20 years. It's impossible to process that. It's not like going to Afghanistan because this is like your home. Now you're in your own place, and this happens in your own home. Whereas if you're going to another country, you're going to their home, and you're just trying to process what's happening there, right? It's a different feeling, and I I just tell people that if there's any issues, you feel like you have any problems whatsoever, and it's geared to your time in the service, seek help. Even if you talk to a friend. I was homeless at the time, and my commander found out I was homeless. I didn't tell anybody. My commander found out, and he actually gave me a blank check to get me an apartment in New York. So I was able to get myself back together again, and um, my my commander was just like he was my savior, pretty much. He was my savior. He did everything. I believe his name was Commander Kenneth Nunez. I think I can't remember, but he was the only one that ever helped me. I called the VA. They was like, well, just let us know what you need, and if we can apply it to you, we can give it to you. Like it was so hard to get help for anything, and even telling them that I was homeless, it was so hard to get any type of help. But if it wasn't for my commander, I probably wouldn't be here today, right? Because that act of kindness changed my entire life, and I tell people who are in the military who are joining, just join with the understanding of what you're going to do, and understand that you're not going to be the same when you come out, no matter what you do, right? And it's one of those things that everyone is different. I seen people went into AIT, went into I was stationed in Fort Knox, Kentucky, and that's where I went to to train. And a lot of the people that I went didn't make it out. Basic training. A lot of people. I went in with I think over 60 soldiers. Half of them made it through basic training. Through basic. So once you pass that, then they say you the AIT. I went to two AITs. I went to Aberdeen Proving Grounds, and then I went to Fort Lee. So I was fire systems repair, and then from there I can't remember what the job was, but logistics. I was a logistics officer. So and it was great. I had a great time until 2001, 2002, and everything went downhill. But I tell what I saw in New York, I would have never want anybody to see that.
Well, thank you very much for sharing, Tony. That's pretty heavy. Hope you guys don't mind. You mind if I switch this up for a second with a question?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What was the coolest thing that you did in your service, and the funnest weapon systems that you got to use? Let's start with Rob. I haven't heard anything from him. I saw some photos. I actually thought he was a SEAL first. Like, nope, we're in the Navy playing with guns.
Yeah, that was a bunch of my buddies. We had to go as midshipmen and play Marines for a week down in Quantico. So they were all unarmed. They're, nothing loaded in those things. That, just going out there having fun, and we were just putting all that makeup on, getting ready to go out there. So thinking we were in Predator or something. So yeah,
I was convinced.
Yeah, but I mean,
because I asked, I was like, shit, man, were you a SEAL? You're like, no. That's exactly what a SEAL would say.
We just had a bunch of those photos and whatnot. We were looking for old photos to post for Veterans Day, but now I was on a sub, so that was probably the coolest weapon system to be on was a submarine. So did that for 3 years. So
yeah, we don't have many submarines in Canada. They're mostly in West Edmonton Mall.
Yeah,
people going right. It's like, you don't want to go on our subs. There's like a 150% chance you ain't coming back for them.
Okay. Bet on that. Yeah,
that's awesome. Anyone got anything that can one up being on a submarine?
I've been on a helicopter.
Oh, the submarine in the sky. Go on.
Yeah, I was in when I was training, I was working with a commander from the Philippines, and his partner couldn't make it, and he needed somebody to be there with him to make sure that everything was working correctly, like electronics. And being that I was working with the A1 Abrams tank, I kind of had an idea on some of the systems because there was something with similar, but not all. And I catch on really fast, right? So I actually got to see how it worked, and the way that thing moves, and it's just like floating in air. I mean, it's just one of those amazing things that you have to see it to believe it, man. And just the electronics behind it, just the way it moves, and the slightest touch to the controls, and the helicopter goes one way. It was just a beautiful thing. And I think one of my funnest things was we had a drill on who can take the M203 and take it apart and put it back together as fast as possible, which was the funniest. And I think it was the Army versus the Navy, and they had to, it was like a test, and whoever did the best got to go out for the weekend, and the other one would have to stay and clean up the barracks. So I was one of my favorite machines, and I actually got to repair and build the M203. I think it took me about a minute and a half to put it all together and disassemble it.
That's slow, bro.
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of helicopters you flew in?
Army versus Navy,
and a half.
Marines.
What, did you take a nap for a minute?
Did you nap, bro? What happened?
Yeah.
You got lost?
I was in a Black Hawk. And I was in it was another one.
You took the M203 apart in the Black Hawk?
No.
They were about to take off without him.
Yeah. That was like after. It was actually that same week. I got on the helicopter, and I got to work with all the weapons, because back then the M203s were like the hottest weapons, right? And I believe that's when the A1 Abrams was like king, right? And it was it was one of those weeks where all the best people come out to see the best weapons and get to work on them. Some of them you get to use yourself, and some of them you get to repair them yourself. But there was two helicopters.
I hated the M203.
Oh yeah, it's a heavy weapon though, that's for sure.
Not heavy. It's just extra shit to carry around, bro. 40 mics.
Yeah.
Nah, no thanks. Anyway, sorry.
That's why you gotta mech yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah.
Yo, the freaking thumb scar always. I got a good explosion story. I got a good weapon system story.
Yeah, go on.
Now that we're doing it the positive route, I like to chime in.
Right.
So yeah, sorry guys. But and first off, I commend all you guys for being able to share that stuff, because that's something that, it's never been my thing, and I respect and appreciate all you guys for doing that so openly, and thank you for sharing that. It means a lot. Secondly, so I was attached to EOD for a little bit. That's explosive ordnance disposal, and we used to do a lot of range sweeps in the desert before we go out to ultimately deploy into unknown territory with IEDs and all that stuff. So we used to collect the bombing ranges on the West Coast for every range, every every unit in the West Coast would use our bombing range to do their aircraft. All aircraft do ordnance, like 1,000-pounders, missiles, heat-seeking shit, all that stuff. And there's a bunch of targets all over the place that are like basically wooden, crates that were like shaped like a tank or an APC or a SAM or a AAA, and they would just put IR paper, infrared paper on it, so like they would have something to aim on. And so we would have to literally comb through the desert and load up all these 500-pounder Smurf bombs, practice stuff, Mavericks, like all these big giant rusty ordnance that may or may not have already detonated. Put in a big.
Now we're just building. We're building up your story.
You're building up a story, and then
that was actually the
I
same song that played for Tony's minute and a half M203 put together thing. And anyways, keep going.
That's my ringtone. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So
don't apologize for good music.
Yeah, that was good music. So what we do is we take all these. We literally have I would say maybe a 2-story pile of 1,000-pounders, all this ordnance, and we'd have to go and throw some C4, C2, all this, all kinds of plastic explosives. Throw that M60, throw some deck cord. The slow deck cords that give us about a few minutes so that we could go to a safe distance, which is about 3 miles. So we load up the deck cord and just drive in our Humvees and military issued the dualies and the big off-road vehicles, and we drove 3 miles and we would have watched this thing go off. And the rule is, if you hear some whizzing nearby your head, just get down because you're still too close. And we did. So you stand there, you see it, you see it, and then you hear it, and then you feel it, and you're like, that sounded like it was too close, and it was. We had to all get behind all the vehicles, and some flat tires were made, and some scraped windows. Yeah, that was great. So
you danger
if you
close
want to know,
yourselves. Wow.
I was danger close to a freaking practice stateside mission. It was great. Anyway, that's my fun weapon system story.
Oh, that's hilarious, man. I nearly got kidnapped in Libya by one of the militias doing a sightseeing tour of Gaddafi's compound, which was lovely that time of year. So we were there looking after the Canadian ambassador, and we just had a few hours off. So we're like, hey, let's go check out Gaddafi's compound. Everyone else is doing it. I got some marble downstairs from that place. And so my partner, Nidin, his family comes from East India. So we're there. We're taking photos, having a fun time, and some guy comes run up with an AK-47, losing his mind. We get detained, and he's looking at Nidin, and he's looking at me, and he's like, Hindustan and Israel working together? I'm like, no, Canada. And man, it got so nerve-wracking because more people came up. They had just previously that week detained 2 journalists, and they will throw you in some random dirt prison and no one will hear from you. But long story short, I got some pretty sweet marble downstairs.
In the kitchen.
And also I rode on a helicopter a bunch of times. So
Whirly birds, let's
go.
Right?
Yeah. On the same missions that we did in the West Coast, I actually crashed in a CH-46. So I was able to walk away from a CH-46 hard landing, we'll say. So that was cool. That wasn't even the last of my helo runs. So I had to get back on those things after they let us down. Well, we had to fly out of there. So.
Wait, you were on a helicopter that crashed?
Yeah, it was a hard landing during another stateside mission. Same type of range sweep stuff, except we were putting in actual. This is how the government works, by the way. If you have a heat-seeking mission, missiles mission, I guess these birds drop these heat-seeking missiles, so you need some source of fire. So what they do with the Marines is we grab a barrel, we poke a bunch of holes in it, we throw a bunch of wood in it, we put some coal, and we have a bottle of lighter fluid, and then flares. We
What in
load
the
said
steampunk
barrels.
am I listening to?
Listen, this is a true story. Listen, so we load up these barrels onto the back of the CH-46. That's the Chinooks, I guess, the Army's version of Chinooks. So it's like the double
Yeah.
whirly, the big Airbuses. So we throw them in the back, and we literally, during a live range, because we have to like literally drop in, drop one off, ignite it, get him back in the bird, go to the next site, and keep going. And then a couple of stops after us are these birds about to shoot these barrels. So we're doing it. We're almost done with the mission. We got about 5 barrels left, and the helo starts leaking hydraulic fluid. And they say that if it's not leaking hydraulic fluid, it's not working. But this one was spewing. It was like, coming out, and we're like, I'm looking at it looks like a lot more than it should be. And the crew chief is like, nah, it's fine. And then all of a sudden you hear the wah, 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 wah. And we're like, I'm gonna put my seatbelt on, which is not a seatbelt, it's just a lap belt on a freaking cot, it looks like. And we went down pretty hard. The only thing I think that was damaged, thankfully, because thank God the pilot was a Marine. Sorry, guys. He put us down. He put us down nice and hard, but we landed, and most of it was mostly intact, and we had to get it back up and running. So we were in a live range that while we were like having to call whoever air traffic control, and they had to call off the bird, and it was like a game of telephone waiting for this bird to hopefully not shoot his heat-seeking missiles at a very hot helicopter that was in the middle of a bombing range that was live. So that was fun. And then he got it fixed.
This is nuts. It sounds like the American Army became the Salvation Army. That is, you're just throwing stuff together.
It's just the way the Marine Corps works, but like the Marines are the smallest branch.
Right? Like everyone's like, oh, this is a military grade thing. Like, lowest bidder, man. You don't want that.
My first deployment to Iraq, I wore Army camouflage. It was handed out because it was sprayed with some kind of bug stuff, and it was hand-me-down. And the only reason I know is because it says SPC Capolino. I remember wearing his camis. There's no SPC rank in the Marine Corps or the Navy. It was specialist, freaking Capolino or whatever. And I'm like, we're not near any. I was in Arizona, like I was in the boonies, and I'm like, how is it? Okay, I guess I'm wearing that, and that's how I deployed to Iraq with somebody else's clothes on my back. I mean, and then listen, you could go down the road. Our Humvees we had to use our own flax or retired flax for the armor on the doors. Like, it's just the way it worked in the Marine Corps. We just had little to nothing, and we did the most we could. And clearly, we're the most badass for it. Just saying.
So I have a question. I have a cosplay question for all you guys. I know Asmay it cosplays now, but did you guys start cosplaying while in the military or after?
Way after.
During.
After. So most of you are after.
Yeah.
Nah,
Okay.
I was doing it way before.
What I will say about it is the same peace of mind that I would get from polishing my brass or cleaning my boots, just that hand-eye coordination, that ability to zone out, that ability to focus on a task and see it through, it carries over, right? It carries over into my cosplay creations. I can be in the garage working on a cosplay and hours go by and I don't even realize, but it goes back to my military upbringing. It goes back to my military background, just that sense of it's gotta be right.
Bro's locked in.
So you're one of those people who enjoy sanding.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sanding, priming, sanding. Yeah.
There's some of the dogs.
It's a Marine. He's just trying to talk. All right, I get it. Semper Fi. All right, we get it.
No, I had my cat outside crying. I had to bring her in. Definitely Air Force type beat.
So I know Tony did 9/11. Probably his most memorable moment or one moment he will never forget. What was one of your most memorable moments or that you'll never forget? We'll go around. Or put your hands up or whatever you want to do.
Mine's it's like a core memory when I was doing. I don't know what they changed to. I think Warrior Leadership course. Anyways, a course for NCOs, and I was there, and I was like and I was in South Korea, And so we had to do land navigation. And I'm like, I'm not good at land navigation. I don't think I could read a map. Ended up finding out I was an expert with it. But when we had to do the land navigation, you're in the middle of this Korean jungle where it has a bunch of rice paddies. The water could be at your ankles or it could be up to your neck. And it's just rice and snakes and everything. And it was like one of the most proudest moments. One, I got lost, but I got all 4 of my coordinates. But I was in the middle of the woods and I saw a saber-toothed deer, which I thought was like a deer vampire. I was freaked out. But I would say that was like one of my most memorable moments. I don't know. It was just like coming back covered in mud and the whole camel paint, spider webs dirty. And I'm like, hey, I got all the coordinates and I found it. And they were like, oh, wow, you were the first one back. And I'm like, oh, snap. And even though I've, got awards and did all this other stuff, but just being the first one coming back from warrior leadership training, getting all my coordinates and passing land navigation, even though I was like scared as hell and all the giant banana spiders and everything. That was probably like the biggest core memory for me.
For me, I had two special memories. The first one was right after Desert Shield. I'm coming home, flying back in to Philadelphia, and I'm on the plane. I'm one of the few people on the plane, and especially one of the few Marines on the plane. So we were stopped in Chicago. So the stewardess comes over to me. I'm already, on the plane. Stewardess comes over to me and was like, "Hey, there's another Marine that's about to board, and we would love to have you. We love to serve you guys champagne and recognize you two and all this stuff." So I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to meet the Marine and all. Come to find out, it was my brother that you see in this picture here, one of my brothers, and he was coming from the other side of the world, and we were both like, and we hadn't seen each other in over like 2 years or so. So it was shock for both of us, and that we were both flying in. Our family did not know, so when they thought that my oldest brother was going to be flying in first. When they saw both of us come off, and we had people shaking our hands, and people were just like, it was a really, at that time, it was a really celebrated moment, and it was really like, it always stood out with me. The second moment was when it was the first time for both my brothers and I, all 3 of us, to be together as Marines. The only time we've been together as Marines before my oldest brother passed away, and the fact that my other brother was getting married, and so they had all of us in dress blues because we were for his wedding. So we were all me and my brother was his best men and everything else. And the fact that we all were together for the first time, and brought my mom to tears, and of course my dad was real proud. But the fact that all 3 of us in this picture is the one picture that always stands out with me as far as a real shining moment, and one of the few pictures I have with my oldest brother, both of them, but my oldest brother especially, the one in the middle, because again, he had left him and my other brother were the reasons why they inspired me to join the Marine Corps. I wanted to be a Marine since I was 8 years old. Anything Marine Corps related, Heartbreak Ridge and Full Metal Jacket, and movies like that inspired me. But for both of my brothers being Marines, and I was like, it was always a dream. I'm like, I hope one day we all get to be together and we're all like, as Marines and stuff. So the fact to be a part of that brotherhood, that fraternity of Devil Dogs, like I said, again, those are my 2 moments that stand out with me as my time serving as a United States Marine.
That's pretty dope, Smoke.
Anyone else?
Sorry, I had to go away for a second. I missed what the question was.
Your most memorable moment.
What's your favorite color?
Oh my God, where to begin? Blue. No, red.
Purple.
Crayons, yes.
So someone got the reference.
Exit.
Right. When I got 2 of them actually. One of them, and they're not really deployment stories either. One was passing the close protection course. Canada, or sorry, the JTF2 or counterterrorism unit used to do it in the 90s, but then it went back to military police, but no one had been doing it for years. So they started sending people down to Blackwater. When I went on, it was the second course to be open to all trades, and myself and the other guy who was my roommate were the first guys from our regiment to actually do the course, and it hit us when we passed, like, oh my god. And we started with, I think, 24 guys, and we finished with 11. So it's like 18-hour days, 2 months straight, no time off. It was pretty intense, one of the most intense things that I did. And that feeling of realization always stuck with me, like, wow, it was just, to me, it felt interestingly historic. And the second one was trying out for JTF 2, our counterterrorism unit. I did the course for the week. I passed it, wasn't picked up. Don't really know why. But it was a really intense experience, and I came out pretty changed from it. A lot more humble, a lot more quiet than I was, believe it or not, and a lot more reflective. It was almost like one of those retreats you hear about people going to where they're quiet for a week, and then they have to do a bunch of peyote or something, and they come back and they're just like a nicer person. They beat niceness into me, I guess. And yeah, it was that always stuck with me, right? It was an insane week. Like I often say, if we took our enemies and put them through that, people would be charged with war crimes. It was just absolutely insane. None of the instructors ever hit me, but they did make us fight each other. Yep. So there you go. Fun times.
I think for me, it's twofold. Like I said, I'm a reservist, so I was already working for GM. I had been working for GM for like 2 years when I decided to take a military leave and go join the Marine Corps, because it was something I always wanted to do. And so when I walked into the recruiter office, he was like, "So what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Well, I took the ASVAB in high school." He pulled up my records. He was like, "He can pretty much do whatever you want to do." I was like, "No, I just want to be an 0311, because at this point in my life, I'm working for GM. I got my own place. I got my own car. And my friends are calling me the man. Dude, you're the man." I'm like, but I haven't done anything, right? I haven't proven myself. I'm just blessed and fortunate enough to have a good job, right? So I want to go and see what I got in the tank, so to speak. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And so I signed up, and I'm like, okay, so what am I looking to accomplish when I get to boot camp? He was like, just keep your head down and graduate. And I was like, no, I need to know. He was like, well, company honor man is, a pretty big deal, and series honor man is also a pretty big deal. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I get there, and I'm one of the oldest guys there. I'm already 21, 22 years old when I go into boot.
That's old.
So,
For the Marine Corps, yes.
Easy, Grandpa.
Exactly. I was like the grand old man in the Marine Corps at that point. So
we had dudes in their 30s on my boot.
Yeah. So I worked my way up to fire team leader, squad leader, and then right before we got ready to graduate, I got guide. And so of course we did the exam. So I graduated from boot camp, series honor guide, got my first promotion there. So I got a PFC out of boot, went to School of Infantry training, got guide again, graduated company honor man. So by the time I came back to Flint, Michigan, I had been promoted twice before I even got back home. And I went back to the recruiter, and he was like, "What?" And I was like, "If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it." Right? And so, like, my first sergeants, they would call me into the office. Every time I graduate, they would call me into the office and be like, "Why are you reservist?" I was like, "I love the Corps. I really do. But I'm making $50,000 at 20 years old in GM right now." I'm like, "I love it, but you guys don't pay me enough. So I'm going to sign up for reserve duty. I'll be here for 8 years. If you need me, I'm here. But other than that, I'm going to go back and make these car parts." And they were like, "Yeah, I've been here 20 years and you make as much as I do. So it makes perfect sense that you're a reservist." But those are so I got like the accommodations and Leatherman Award and everything, got a boot camp, and then went to the reserves and didn't do shit else.
Weekend Warriors, man. Love it.
Hey.
Couch
I like how you own it, though.
All love.
Yeah,
I love it.
For sure. But the thing about it is, being in Michigan, what they didn't tell me is that we were the mountain warfare unit, so we were the cold weather unit. So everybody else got to do their stuff in the summer. I'm up in Canada learning how to snowshoe and cross country ski and doing mountain warfare training in the Sierra Nevada mountains. I'm like, who are we fighting where it's cold anymore? Why are we doing this? So
Yetis, bro.
they got
The
me
Yetis.
back.
Afghanistan.
We're actually waiting our time.
Afghanistan.
1812 wasn't that long ago. We're coming back.
Yeah.
We're gonna take that White House again.
Oh,
So yeah,
nice.
Afghanistan was cold as hell both times.
Right? Coldest I've ever been in my life was in Kandahar. Plus 30 during the day, minus 10 at night.
And when you gotta sleep outside in that shit, it's fucking horrible.
Yeah.
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 Having to wake up in the middle of the night, take a piss, and you're just 10 feet of snow outside, it sucks.
At least you can write your name in the snow.
So Kenny, what's your most memorable moment?
Oh
If you have
man, yeah. There's a few. I mean, I'll just shoot off the last one, I guess. When I was getting ready to get out, I already had taken the test for the NYPD. Had my plan, and I was at my last formation, my last uniform inspection. I was still motivated to the very last day, even though it was a short timer. I still wanted to like be squared away and be a good example to the young Marines that I was leaving. So I had my ribbons. I was dressed blue deltas, which is we were in the summer. It was Arizona, so we were always short sleeves. You know, we all looked great, and nice short sleeve, perfect creases. My ribbons were all pretty. Everything was nice. And my lieutenant looked at me, and he was a boot lieutenant. No offense to any boot lieutenants out here. He was a brand new. So there's like a fun rivalry between commissioned and enlisted, because me as a 5.5-year sergeant, you know, and the second lieutenant who outranks me, he had like a year and a half on, and he had no experience. Me, I had combat deployments under my belt, and, you know, so he picked on me a little bit. It's like, you know, as every good lieutenant should. And he told me, he goes, "Hey, Restrepo, you know, I don't think you're going to make it in the civilian world." And I was like, I didn't know what to say. I was in a position of attention. He was looking at my uniform, inspecting everything. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm ready to get out. I got a plan of attack. You know, I had everything go. I was going all the way back to New York. You know, I was in Arizona. I'm like, damn, what am I doing wrong? Like, what did it have on my face that so all I could say was, "Well, sir, I don't think you're going to make it in the Marine Corps." So so obviously that was conduct on becoming a Marine, and I had nothing else to say. But his jaw dropped. He took me out of rank. I stood in front of the office, my gunny's office, and all I heard, and this is, I swear, this is the greatest moment. All I heard was, "You ever talk to my Marine or any of my Marines like that again, I will take my rank off and beat your ass, sir." And then outstormed out the lieutenant. And I like stood up at the POA, and as he stormed out, and then he goes, the gunny calls me, and he goes, "Do you really tell him he's not going to make it in the Marine Corps?" I'm like, "Yes, I did, gunny." He's like, "Yeah, he's not going to make it." He goes, "You're dismissed. You got your ass chewing. Get out of my office." I was like, "Oh!" Got to tell off. And I always had the utmost respect, you know, for the rank, never the man, if that was the case. And obviously, I'm sure we've all run into that. So I got to tell him. I mean, like that, you know, he had a lot of nerve in the middle of my, you know, a proud moment of getting ready to get out, still trying to set an example that I'm not going to make in the civilian world. So I had to tell him that, you know, he sucks as a Marine. So anyway, that was a good moment. I don't know. I'm sure there was many more, but whatever.
I have a hot button issue. Just circling back to the first question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I've been seeing online a lot of sentiment in regards to mental health and the homelessness of vets, and the government spending a lot of money more on, I guess, immigration and immigrants than they are on the veterans that live within those countries. How do you guys feel about that? If anyone wants to
which country you want to focus on?
I think it's mainly
Canada
US.
over here.
I think mainly US, but it does somewhat trickle down to Canada as well. So
Can I come up and live in Canada, bro?
I don't think you'd want to.
I don't know if you want. I think you're going to be shocked by our taxes, and
Yeah.
Also, our immigration system, it depends on how fast you could put an M203 together. Right now, it's like 55 seconds. So one of you ain't going to make it.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
55 seconds
Yeah,
is
right?
low.
No shots fired because you can't get the gun together in time.
Yeah, right. Right. Thank you. Thank you.
So how do you guys feel about the sentiment online that immigrants are getting better housing treatment in regards to, you know?
I mean,
Well, yeah, if
when they're
you've
being
ever been
put
to the
up
shacks,
in, like
yeah.
5-star hotels in New York City,
So,
three
so
square meals a day.
here's the thing: it's broken all the way around because it's a extremely complex issue when it comes to homelessness. It's like, honestly, a lot of veterans are homeless because they're running and as drug addicts. Drug addiction is one of the highest reasons why we have so many homeless people, is because of drug epidemics. And also, too, if you look at it, right, in the 80s, when all those secret wars were going on and they were flooding drugs into our streets, what were they doing? They were criminalizing drug addiction. Now, what are they also doing simultaneously? They were closing down all the mental health facilities across the country. Why? Because prisons make money, period. Prisons make a lot of money. And so if you keep people on drugs, you keep them addicted and keep them in and out the system, they're just going to keep making more and more money. In truth, I feel like the government truly does not care about the homeless problem. Plain and simple. Agriculturally, if you look at it, what keeps our groceries down? What keeps our crops down? What keeps the price of a lot of things down? Migrant workers, migrant individuals who are given asylum. I don't blame those. I don't blame anybody who's trying to, after my time of going multiple third world countries that are ravaged by tyranny, I don't have a problem with people being immigrant and seeking asylum. I have a problem against the sectors of the government who use people and give people this false hope and this false sense of security in regards to what they actually care about. And so, like I said, the system is broken and it's full of greed. And that's what it purely spans down to, because if it was about caring for people, then there would be no homeless problem. If there was about caring for people, the people would be not criminalized for drug addiction. Most people who are addicted to drugs are running from some kind of trauma, either being raped, molested, PTSD from family and stuff like that. But yet they don't care because the schools don't have money. Public schools are suffering, but yet they want to cut more and more stuff. So I'm going to digress, get off my soapbox, but that's on it. The whole system is broken, period.
Yeah, I agree that it's definitely not. Oh, so go ahead, buddy.
No, I was going to say OxyContin was something that really played into that as well, because I don't know about you guys, but they were issuing that out to the troops at one point for surgeries and recoveries. And I had a buddy that became a fucking heroin addict because he was prescribed OxyContin, and then his prescription ran out and he was addicted. So he started, and this guy was in the military. He went from being super fit model soldier to just unfortunately criminal. And at the time, the chain of command was not as supportive as they are these days. They didn't recognize what was going on. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, they released him, dishonorably discharged, and he went on to kill himself. But yeah, it like you said, it is a super complex issue with, and you can't just be like, oh, well, Veterans Affairs needs to be better or the military needs to be better. It needs to be revamped in a lot of ways that we can totally solve right now in the next 5 minutes. Tony, go. What's your solution?
Yeah. No, listen, I do agree. There's a lot of things you could compare to veteran homelessness in any regard, in any corner of the law, any corner of problems that we have in the country. So, like, I mean, not to say don't worry, be happy, but like, we volunteered. You know, we're one of the few countries in the world that volunteered to join. We volunteered to do this. It was our calling, or whatever reason we volunteered to do this. So leaving it, you know, we volunteered to take on whatever's there, even if we don't know. Just like an immigrant doesn't know what's on the other side of that sandbox that he had to crawl over, or an immigrant going into a boat or whatever. Like, so it's hard to compare those two things because they're not the same thing. They're not the same thing. And it's like apples and oranges. The school system, you have a point. The school system's flawed, government's flawed, police issues, crime issues, everything, or wherever you go. So like, it's not. I don't feel that it is a valid argument to say A against B. It's like, hey, they all suck. They all have issues. There's flaws in the government, and leave me the fuck alone. I just want to hang out in my Batcave and dress up like Batman. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the standard should definitely be, why can't we attempt to help or fix both? Right? Like you can, you so people when people see that immigrants are getting more benefits, like, well, what about the veterans and homeless people and the suffering mental health? Like, sure, why can't we work on solutions for both? That seems plausible. We can only do one at a time. That sounds like shitty government to me.
And also, if you don't ask for help, you don't get help. There's a lot, like I said earlier, there's a lot of resources out there. I have a friend. We went through Oasis together.
Thank you.
Bless him. It's for severe combat PTSD inpatient program they have in the military. And he owned 2 houses that he inherited in Camp Pendleton, but he was homeless on the beach. And he refused to live in his house. He lived on the beach with his service dog because he felt so much guilt, because he was the only survivor out of his platoon in a helicopter crash. And he felt he never could let go of the guilt. He did not want to sleep in a bed because his guys died in the sand. And that's a lot. I've been in group therapies here with a lot of homeless veterans who are addicted to drugs. And most of the time they even had a social worker, but they were just so far gone, they didn't want to ask for help. A lot of immigrants, they will come here for help. They want to get help. There's resources for them, so they're getting the help. So it's a lot of the misinformation that's put out there by media, trying to put us against each other, pit this and make people get angry, pointing a finger and pointing blame. And like all the guys said earlier, the system is broken all the way around. You shouldn't be comparing apples to oranges.
Mm-hmm. Good sentiments.
So I'm not sure if anybody else wants to add to that. But I don't know what the enlisting numbers look like, but has it been on a decline in the last few years? And also, how can you promote the Army or the military to get people more to join? How would you go about doing that?
If Michael Bay directs our recruitment videos,
I feel like
made me want to join the Army.
I feel, and this is just from a civilian standpoint, I feel like the millennials were the last to full-fledged join any military.
I think you have that wrong. I am a millennial. Yeah. I'm 42 years old.
I'm a Gen Zer, so
Gen Zers are the ones that need the timeout cards
cap
and all that stuff. No cap. They got all the riz, so they have no. When they add extra trim to their uniform, or they have like the shaggy hair and the beard for no reason. No, but I mean, recruitment it's always going to be up during wartime. It's always going to be down during peacetime. That's really like generally the wave of things. So it's like, you know what? If there's less people in the military, we lose a little bit of money in there and go somewhere else. When there's wartime and you gain a little more money here, so it's really, the war, this long war on terrorism has been had many components, and obviously you could see the many faces who were involved in it in different capacities. So recruitment's not, the only thing it's an issue for is the recruiters who decided to take that B billet, which sucks for them, Anything else, it's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, war dictates our enlistments. That's pure, plain and simple. Because especially whenever there's a drawdown of any, like when they were drawing down Afghanistan or Iraq, and they didn't really know that they were going to ramp up. Like the military just told whatever the government tells us, right? When they were drawing down in Iraq, right? The Marine Corps, I saw it firsthand, was kicking out groves of Marines, no matter, even if they asked, first termers, they were like, you got to go. And then all of a sudden, they're like, oh, we're going to ramp up in Afghanistan. And now they're just scrambling to get people in. And the recruitment, I had a friend, he was like, I'm getting out. He couldn't do it. He was like, I should have went drill instructor. Because he was, at one point, he wasn't doing anything. People were just coming to him. And then all of a sudden, he had to work to midnight every night trying to get people in. I feel like because of the resources, especially for people who don't have the luxuries of having someone pay for college because it's so expensive, and also too the economy sucks. The military, for those who are willing to put in the work and the sacrifice, is a good resource. Yes, it's a sacrifice. I to myself, I would never change anything I did. I loved it and I hated it at the same time. But at the same time, it's made me the person I am. It's a walk I took, and there's a lot of benefits out of it. I got so many degrees, also too, so much training. Got to see the world, 27 different countries. So there's you give and take. It's a sacrifice, but at the same time, it'll be worth it. Also too, if you got to document everything, don't just suck up shit. Because I've seen so many people have to fight for they get injured throughout their whole career, but then they'll self-medicate or they'll just suck it up and they'll get any documentation. Then when they get ready to get out, they have the VA gives them a hard time.
Yeah, it's a little bit different for our Veterans Affairs. Well, first off, I think if they had more Applebee's discounts, perhaps more people would join. That's why I did it, for the sweet discounts. Culturally, Canada is a lot different with the civilian acceptance of the military. I think people forget that our military carried on after World War I and World War II. So I'm not even kidding. I've met people like, Canada has a military? Like, yeah, man, Flanders Fields was a while ago.
All six of you?
When I had to do Joint Force training, in Afghanistan, it was the Army, Air Force, and some guys in some weird camis. I was like, what are these guys from Bolivia? Said, oh shit, they're Canadians, they're neighbors. I was like, what the hell? I was like, I didn't know you guys were still around.
Our attack moose. Surface to air beaver launcher.
I want one of those.
What are they camming up with? Maple syrup? The enemies hate the stickiness of the syrup.
Oh, God.
Yeah. All real stories, not jokes. Oh, anyways, our recruitment is so goddamn abysmal to the point where the government hired civilian agencies. Like, how can we make this better? And they're like, let people dye their hair whatever color, grow big beards. I'm not kidding. Have piercings, face tattoos. Like it was such a bizarre experiment over the last 2 years. I'm looking at photos. This one girl had like a half-shaved head, pink hair here, blue hair here, and I was in the process of getting medically released, and that definitely didn't help that process. I'm just sitting there like, Afghanistan was bad. Losing my mind over this stuff. You can have relaxed grooming in kind of like a small specialty situation where it's required if they need to blend in. Like, obviously growing a beard and blue hair is not going to help me blend in Afghanistan, but if I don't want to look so militant doing what I do, yes, relaxed standards, civilians, it helps. But I've seen people abuse that. Like, it goes to their head, then they forget that they're still in the military. So you apply that to a whole army setup, discipline starts going out the window. People need more access to cry rooms, things like that. And it didn't help recruiting at all. It failed, and it was just a little bit embarrassing. I don't know what the solution is, but culturally, we don't really have the same people in Canada just don't view our military the same way that you guys do. Like, I went to SeaWorld once, like a decade ago, and they just played this giant American flag on the Jumbotron and asked like all the troops and allies to stand up, and then everyone started cheering like, yeah, number one. There's Shamu's jumping around like, where am I?
Oh God!
So
yeah.
it's
We're
just
bred differently down here.
like, yeah, my God, I love it. I go down there and
what is crying at the blue-haired soldiers.
Oh, you got the blue-haired soldiers?
No, we don't. We're upset at your soldiers.
I know.
I don't think there's a lot of patriotism in Canada as it is in the US.
Not at all.
It reminded me of that UFC video when they did the contrast between the American fight where everyone was cheering USA, and then they panned over to ours and we were basically saying F Trudeau the whole time.
Yes.
Oh,
sorry. Apologies. Sorry.
Yeah. So
But Canadians just don't shout out because they're just so polite. That's why they don't shout. They just keep it to themselves. A low roar.
Yeah. That's true. Now we again, it's when I found when Stephen Harper and the conservatives were in power, there was more of an emphasis on things. They had a thing called Red Friday, where show your support for the troops, wear red. If someone unfortunately died or was killed while serving or on deployment, they would blast that all over the news. They'd make a big deal about these things. There was a lot of emphasis on military, and I actually did feel that there was a little bit more pride for our military back between 2006 and 2014 timeframe. It just seemed like we were in the front news, but we'll never. I don't think the government will ever pay much attention to us because we're not a really big voting base for any government, whether it's our NDP, Liberals, or Conservative Party. So. Yeah, we would have to get invaded for there to be a big cultural shift. So I'm looking to you guys, help us out.
Hey man,
Plan.
Like,
As long as you only use beaver launchers.
Where are we dropping, boys?
You're a little nervous with the attack polar bears and beaver launchers and the time we won 1812. But
hey,
never forget.
Yeah.
never forget.
Hey, dude, as long as you guys take care of our North, we're always cool. Because ever since I was a kid, Red Dawn has always freaked me out with that possibility.
Wolverine!
Dude. I literally keep my safe stock just because of that movie. Ever since I joined.
I got bad news for you. If the Russians sneak in from there, we're gonna be, they're down that way, eh? A little bit more to the south.
Hey, somebody has a really great question here. I don't know if you guys could read that. Does anyone feel if the service has influenced the cosplay costume choices? I mean, that's a good idea. Yeah, let's do it.
It actually influenced my my name, Battle Damage Props. Like, I'm medically released for PTSD, broken back, arthritis, hearing loss, major depressive disorder. Like, I have a great body for an 80-year-old man. And that definitely influenced the naming of it, and certainly the manic way that I craft things. I'm able just to go for days without sleep.
I definitely say what's funny is my favorite nerd fandoms is what encouraged me to go in the military. Like, I've loved G.I. Joe since I was little. That was a dream to be a G.I. Joe. And I love Star Wars since I was little, Star Trek. So those things, being like loving, obsessing over Star Wars, Star Trek, and G.I. Joe since I was a little kid encouraged me going to the military. And then what gave me an outlet and encouraged me to get into cosplay was because of the Navy. Like, they really encourage you to do a lot of volunteering in the military. And I wanted to do something that was a lot like myself. And so that's when I found the 501st and Rebel Legion and started doing Star Wars costuming for charity. And then I just spined out from Star Wars and started cosplaying everything and anything that I like.
Other people just become Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, that's true.
So
there's go ahead.
Oh, so for me, I just have like a absurd roster of military affiliated characters. Edward Elric, Captain Marvel, Captain America, Batwoman. And I started cosplaying these after I enlisted. And that's just that. Is it a coincidence? Maybe? Captain America, definitely not, because him and I are both July 4th babies, so
nice. I definitely my favorite character in all of comics has always been Frank Castle, who's a Marine, who's one man, killing machine, family gets murdered by the mob, So, so my favorite cosplay to do is Frank Castle. I've done a lot of variations. I actually met Stan Lee dressed up as Frank Castle in 2010, which was amazing.
That's dope.
But my Batman is what put me on the map with my organization. I'm part of an organization. We dress up for kids in hospitals, and we have a lot of firemen, police, military, teachers, everybody from all over New York City and Pennsylvania. And they recruited me because of my Batman costume. So my wife wanted to go to Comic-Con as Catwoman, and she goes, "I guess you're gonna be Batman." I'm like, not really my favorite guy, but because it felt like it was a lot. It was like very overdone because it was around the Christopher Nolan era where everybody wanted to be that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it different. And I harnessed my tactical gear. I took my Deuce gear that was lost in combat, and I put it on the floor. And I was
Bro
looking
was
around
not wearing
and
hockey pads.
no, he was wearing tactical armor, exactly. So like I'm looking down, I'm like, what can I do to make this like look like it's armor that's still like functional? So I actually made a pretty cool, decent, for my first cosplay, Batman costume, and it did really well in the Comic-Con, whatever. And then the organization saw me through a friend, and I started designing their costumes, and I was the Batman. This is why you see the cave behind me. I literally filmed videos from here for kids, like when they're like sick or whatever, and we can't get to them. I'll put on the cowl and I'll start talking to them and say, hey, take a look at my stuff, and it makes it more of an interactive thing. So I really try to do like what if these superheroes, and the ones that I get commissioned to do as well, I always make it very armor-esque more than just like spandex, because let's keep it real, not everybody's in the peak physical condition that our fellow Canadian up there with the 80-year-old in shape guy, so armor kind of helps make you look cooler and more more badass.
Yeah, agreed. I just want to say hi, Felicia. She who here cosplays as Black Cat? Is that you, Tony?
Oh,
all the friends up in here, my favorite Black Cat. I've been trying to figure out.
I have a question to piggyback off.
Oh, that was probably me.
Okay.
I forgot about that. Okay, so
it is cheap.
Shit, this is funny as hell. So I got goaded into by my wife Angela and Shelly cosplay, who they both love playing Black Cat, and they were just doing all kinds of skits, and I was just like, you know what, whatever. I just went with it. I'm confident who I am, so I'll share it in the group chat. Some of the videos that we see.
Apparently you're the sassiest Black Cat. Save it for your OnlyFans, I guess.
Lonely Mans.
I want to piggyback off of that question in terms of fictional characters, because and this is directed towards Tanner. I know superheroes are one thing. I'm a particularly a big Call of Duty fan. I wanted to know, how do you guys feel about, because I did invite Tanner to a Call of Duty shoot, and how do you guys feel about cosplaying characters that are militarized or based on the military?
I can't I don't know. I can't bring myself to do it, man. The Call of Duty thing, it's fun, but it's so unrealistic. I can't picture myself going on patrols, jumping around, Taliban shooting at me, crawling around, jumping back. It just I see people dressed up like that, and it takes me a moment to be like, oh, they're a Call of Duty character. I haven't played that game in a while, just because it's frustrating to get your ass handed to you by some 8-year-old kid with a laser like focus on this game. And I'm like, motherfucker, I did this shit in real life. God damn it. It's like playing Guitar Hero. I know how to play guitar, but I can't play Guitar Hero. So it's just frustrating. No, I don't think I'll ever dress. It doesn't appeal to me. I played Army dress up for like 21 years.
Is it insulting to the profession or the military in general?
No, not at all. Definitely not as much as those people with the blue-haired, half-shaved heads in uniform.
If they're walking around saying they're military, that's a whole different category of stolen valor, which we handle accordingly. But almost think about it like if the real Batman's walking around and you see all these guys cosplaying, it might be a little bit of a compliment. Like these guys, they look like they see these characters on Call of Duty as a heroic figure that they want to personify. Yeah. So in some way, it's a the civilians, they're not going to understand how what goes where and why this looks wrong and looks retarded or whatever, but it does, whatever. So, yeah. Sorry, I realize it's 2024. I shouldn't say that. Anyway, but I'm canceled. Anyway, so like these things, when they're out of whack or whatever, like, they could seem a little off-putting. Like you said, like our spirit, I believe that, everybody in this room, our spirit is a little stronger than it is to see somebody and be broken by it and be like insulted by it. Cause it is what it is. These guys don't know better and whatever, it's like airsofters, those guys are the real heroes, I think.
Yeah, it might be a recruiting tool as well. They play video games and they grow up and then they sign a contract. They're stuck in for 3 years when they realize it's not that. You're never going to be a private first class who jumps out of a plane, lands into a tank, and then and then hops onto a motorcycle. There's only like 2 dudes that I know who went from infantry to pilot.
Have you guys
So
seen?
you-
Have you guys seen the new video by Dax called Soldier?
No.
Okay, I just wanted your take on it. What you guys thought about it? It's pertaining to exactly what we're talking about today. So yeah, take a look at it. He's a Canadian artist as well. Take a look at it.
Yeah,
After.
yeah,
I'll
send
send
me
the
the,
link after. Yeah, I'll send you
yeah,
guys the
please
link
do.
after.
Oh.
Yeah. So it seems like everyone's ready for bed and everyone's hopping off. So we'll close it out. You guys want to go around and plug your plug your socials? Tony?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. So, for those who are following or watching, definitely follow us. I'm at Dancing in Comic Books. Again, I do a lot of cosplay, but I'm more on the art side of things. I do cosplay just specifically for myself, unless I get Tanner to build something for me. He's my go-to guy right there. When I have something in my head and I want it done, Tanner's the man to do it. And then I create the accessories or whatever it may be on my stuff. But yeah, if there's anything anybody needs or wants, be sure to follow me, and I'll do my best to do the same with everybody else.
Perfect. Tanner?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram, battle_damage_props, Facebook too, but I don't really interact that much on there. Threads, I guess you can find Battle Damage Props there if you want to just hear me scream into the void of threads. I don't even know why I'm on that thing. There's like 5 people and 27,000 bots.
I forget it exists sometimes.
Yeah, I don't even use it. I don't even know what it is.
It's getting rough in there too. Like Threads is just I never joined Twitter, and it was just for this reason. Just people are assholes behind keyboards. And it's very easy to be mean and rude and other people when you're not having a face-to-face conversation. Everyone wants to be right. No one wants to listen. So, anyways, yeah, Threads.
Well, Tanner, to all the keyboard warriors, I want to introduce you all to the real warriors out there on this panel. Yeah, Kenny?
All right, you guys could follow my tattoo art and my cosplay stuff at Art by K-Bar on Instagram. And please give my my organization a follow, Humble Heroes _NY. We're looking for guys like you, guys on this podcast, guys cosplay. Like, we really need strength in numbers, and then the more we have, the more places we're able to see together. And I see some real talent out there. So please check us out and see what we're about. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. Again, Brandon, aka Cheeky Photography. You can find me on all social medias as Cheeky Photography. Also, too, same thing as Kenny said. I want to encourage those to get out there. There's nothing like cosplay for a cause. There's nothing like giving back to the community. It gives it more purpose when you're wearing that costume and stuff like that. Going to conventions is fun. Being around your friends is fun. But when you're going out there, going to those hospitals, going to those autism walks, going to those diabetes associated, even going to elderly homes, because they still appreciate. So you'll find those old timers that still appreciate Star Wars and Marvel and stuff like that. It's an amazing thing. I'm part of 501st Legion, Rebel Legion, Mandalorian Mercs, Kids for Cosplay, and West Coast Avengers. So again, as Kenny said, I encourage you to get out there. Not just, it's good to have some fun, but at the same time, if you want to make a difference in the world, putting smiles on faces through the love of our fandoms is one of the best ways you can do it.
Beautifully said. And if you guys have any, go ahead, Tony.
Yeah. So, in case if any of you guys do, I do a lot of designer statues, right? So I sometimes give my stuff away for good causes. So this past year, I did something with Anthony for SickKids, and I designed. I printed out and painted a Deadpool statue. So if there's any, Kenny or Chief, if there's anything that you guys ever wanted and wanted to make and had some idea, maybe doing a giveaway or something to raise funds for any type of a program, I'm all for it.
Thank
if
you. That's awesome.
Yeah, if you see some of my work on my Instagram page, because I'm constantly posting, because I'm constantly creating stuff. I do a lot of stuff for Puerto Rico because that's where I'm from, and I do a lot of community things when I can. So if there's anything that you guys need, just drop me a DM and then we'll go from there. Same thing with Tanner.
Yeah. And if anyone has any cosplay questions or charity questions or military questions, feel free to reach out to anyone on this panel. I'm sure everyone will be happy to help you out. So thank you all for tuning in. Hope you guys have a great night. Until next time.
Yeah, this is
right.
good. Thanks,
Take
fellas.
care, guys.
Oh,
Thanks, guys.
forgot to wear my hat,
Ah.
but it was here. It was here right beside me the entire time.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right, guys.
All right. Cheers, guys.
If you're watching this episode on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out other episodes of the Cosplay Alliance podcast. The Cosplay Alliance podcast is also available in audio format on all major podcast